How many of you are doing ABM or aware of ABM? Most of you. All right, that's cool. So, man, that's pressure. Typically, I speak to people who have no idea. So it's like, yeah, I can really be awesome. But if you know, it's I love for questions. Stop me anytime. This is a fun topic. This is a passion project of mine. I fell in love with this idea of flipping funnels. That's why we started Flip My Funnel movement and the podcast. We do it daily. And the whole idea is to share something that we learn every day. And it could be 10 minutes, it could be 20 minutes, it could be 30 minutes, doesn't really matter. So that's why the podcast has been a fun thing to do. So hopefully, if nothing else, on your commute or anywhere else, you can check it out. All right, so getting into lessons. So first of all, I love to hear of people who are practicing ABM. Why ABM? Like, why are you practicing ABM? Anybody?
Save time and money.
Save time and money. Well, that's one. A lot of people raise their hands. So I'm going to start pointing at people and ask questions. So anybody, why are you doing ABM? And why now?
So you can target the right customers with the right message or the right prospects with the right message.
Target the right. I would never use the word
people.
Just because. And yeah. I used to do that for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And then it dawned on me, like, how many of you like to be prospected? Hunted? Yeah. Farmed? Whaled out of water? Something like that, right? So the phrases that we use, there you go. So the phrases that we use actually also somehow communicate what we think about our customers or future customers, right? So I always think about customers and future customers, and not just because I'm going to say future customers, is because if you're truly doing ABM, then you know who you're going after. And those people are not just any people, because they are the one that you believe that your product or service fits perfectly for them. Otherwise, you would not be reaching out to them. So if nothing else, think about customers and future customers as the way. But I love that point. The thought that went through my head as I was thinking about this is like, well, why now? Like, we've always wanted to do what you just said, is we want to get in front of the right people at the right time and have an efficient growth and make sure that our product is valuable. But why now? And I started to think about why. Let's just go through it. So I think about a magic that happens every 5 years in marketing and sales. Something new that happens if you think about it. So 2000, email marketing. I think most of you probably don't remember as much. I look much younger than I am. So email marketing was awesome, where I used to get 80-90% open rate. How many of you remember that? Yeah. Don't raise your hand. That's okay. It was crazy. It was awesome. 2000 was phenomenal. Email marketing is still awesome, but what's your open rate lately? 20%. 20%? Wow, I want to hear from you after this one. That's awesome. So on a good day, that's a really big thing. A lot of companies are even struggling to have 2, 3, 4% open rate, click-through rate and stuff, right? That's email today. And I'm so glad what Sixter was sharing, what Ali was sharing about Sixter, but email is the #1 channel that's been used. And it's the most used channel internally and externally. So there's nothing wrong with it, but the results that you're getting from it are not as high. Let's go 5 more years. Pardot, Marketo, Eloqua, everybody came to life, right? Like because they said, you know what, we can capture leads. If you can send emails, we can capture leads. We can send emails, we can capture leads. That's awesome. That's what marketing automation was awesome. And at that time, salespeople started to say, how many of you are in sales? All right? Yes. Marketing, you send me crappy leads. Have you ever said that? There you go. Like, this is all after drinks, all honest, happy hour conversation. So, marketers sending me crappy leads has been one of the #1 trending topic out there on Google if you go start searching for it. And that's because any and everybody who downloaded an ebook or some sort will just send it to the sales team. And that person may not be ready to buy. And when the salesperson calls them, they're like ticked off. Like, well, why are you calling me? I just want to learn something. I didn't even open it and you're calling me, right? Like, so you're like so fast about it. And that's really what happened with too much automation that happened. So I ran marketing at Pardot, so I'm responsible for that. And I think everybody who's in the Marketo group, we all are responsible for it, because I think the automation pushed it over the edge. It wasn't designed for everybody to send a ton of emails. It was designed to be very sophisticated, nurturing, value-added, timely content, but we overdid it, some of it. So sales started to say, what the hell, what are you doing? That's when predictive came about. They said, you know what, we're going to solve this problem. We're going to tell exactly which lead you need to get when, because we know which leads are predicted to sell, right? Buy from you. So that's what predictive came about. But if you think about it, the whole last 15 years, we have been trying to solve the same problem, which is what you said. Try to get in front of the right people at the right time. And the only thing that happened in this whole process is less than 1% of the leads turned into customers. And I think that's where ABM is so much relevant. It's not a new idea. I'll be the first person to say, ABM is nothing new. This is what we all wanted to do from day one. There's nothing new about it. The only thing new is there's a lot more technology that you could probably use to do what you need to do, but we can still do the same thing, and sales will still get some crappy leads if you do that in the wrong way. So with that little bit of back history, I think about it this way very quickly. I won't go too detailed in it, but that's really what Flip My Funnel is all about. It's reimagining the world that we live in, which is less than 1% of the leads turn into customers, because we're only looking at leads. We're not looking at the future customers that you really care about. And when you flip it, you start with the right people in the right companies. That means you're going to spend more time with them. It makes perfect sense for you to do that because you're not going after everybody, and then you're going to turn them into advocates by activating sales and measuring. So we're going to go through some examples of it. So that's what happens when you send. My graphic designer told me, like, run it off your laptop because there's a font that is installed. So we didn't do that. So you're going to see some funny things, and I thought after a couple of drinks you all would be game for this. So there you go. All right. Number one, be you. All right, be you, and this is what I think. This is my daughter Kiara, and every time I try to buy, and she's a Halloween baby, so she just had her 4th birthday, and it was funny because I don't know what she was wearing. I think it was a crown thing that turned into like horns later on. I don't know, something happened there. But every time I'll go shop for her, I'll always get this soft unicorn princess ballet dancer kind of t-shirts. There's nothing wrong with it. That's awesome. But I'll try to go and buy for Krish, my son. You'll see that later in the slide. You'll get rock star, like hero, courageous, Superman, like all these kind of things. And I'm like, I don't want my daughter to think that she's not that. Like, she is that, but I also want to think that she's brave, and she's strong, and she's fearless. And it's hard, so I always go try to buy these t-shirts that actually say that, so she's more than that. And what I mean by that is, as marketers, we have to figure out who we are. We are not there to create just incredibly amazing looking graphics. That's one part of our job, to have an amazing experience. But the other part is that we are here to drive the business forward. That is the number one job we are. We exist to drive it. And if that doesn't happen, then we're not doing our job. So I feel like we have to redefine who we are and what our purpose is in our companies. So I think the other part that I started to think about is this idea of one team, where marketing and sales works together. How many of you in your companies, marketing, sales work as one team? Not many people raising their hands. So that is the number one challenge when we think about why there's a problem with marketing and sales, right? So I think about not just fist bumping, but the mindset that we have. We can go through a very specific example on it. I would love to hear if anybody has a single scorecard for marketing and sales. Do you have different goals or the same goal? Same goal? Does that really happen in your company?
At a high level.
At a high level, yes. And it's important to note that, because if you have two different goals, guess what's going to happen? People are going to focus on different things, and that's not going to drive it. I love that. You love that idea. Right? So this is what happened in our company as we went through a transformation. This is a true story where Todd, our CRO, said that fire me if this doesn't work. If when we went through a transformation, we're going to go through examples of what that transformation looks like, and he said fire me if this doesn't work. Because if this doesn't work, then we definitely screwed up. We didn't know what we did. And on our side, you can see the word prospecting over there, because that's Lucas, our SDR leader, so he still uses that. And he said, you know what, I'm saving 4 hours of my time every single day because I'm not prospecting, because I already know who to go after. Think about the value that you can drive in your company. And then finally, from a marketing perspective, we're saying that we don't need to measure leads. Like, how many of you measure leads as a single point of success in your And that's okay, because I think that's a real important metric. But as a single metric, I think we have different metrics that we can work today. So let's think about why this is important. This is the third lesson I learned. And all the buck stops at CEO, especially for this. Now, how many of you had to have an approval from your CEO for a content management system? Or even marketing automation, completely change things? Or like the landing page form builder or something like that. We really don't go to the CEO for all of that. And we don't even show all the results that we get from all of these, because it doesn't really matter to the CEO, because he was looking at what are my results. But when you do ABM, what I learned, that if your CEO is not bought in, he's going to give different metrics to marketing and sales. And if you have different metrics, you don't have the same scorecard, you cannot create transformation in your organization. This is the number one failure I saw why companies are not able to do ABM really well, is not having their CEO fully bought in. So for example, I'll tell you another story in our company, talking about Todd. We were at a board meeting, and in that meeting, the board meeting, we had raised money. That's the one fun thing, right? You have board meetings every 6 weeks, and we have to tell them what happened. And we're like, look, show us what happened, and here's the Excel spreadsheet. Shows how many leads you created, how much revenue generated. And that is the standard story in every single company. And we couldn't say that. We're like, look, it's a different metric, different game. We don't need 10,000 leads. We will only go after the 1,000 companies. That's our market, because they are the best companies to go after. It's a completely different thing. And at that time, if our CEO thought this wouldn't work, we wouldn't have been able to go through the board meeting and get it. And it took about 6 months for us to get the board completely convinced that this is something we need to do, which means you have to measure and report differently. And that doesn't actually happen. Number 4, measure the right things. So that's my son Krish. That's sad. It's less about ABM, more about my family. But this is outside our house, and one day I think it's in summer, he had a football in his hand and basketball t-shirt and football socks and tennis. So he's wearing all these things, and I'm like, what are we doing here? And he's like, we're gonna play. I'm like, what game are we gonna play? Because I have no idea what game you're gonna play. And he said, well, anything is possible. And when I think about it, well, that's great that anything is possible. For his age, it's perfectly normal to do all these things. But as he grows up, he's going to figure out that there's only one sport that he can be really good at, and not all of them, right? So I feel like as marketers, we have to figure out what metrics we want to measure. If we're going to measure all the metrics, every single thing that we always measure, I don't think we're going to see the difference in anybody else, because they're all going to ask for the same things. We have to stop doing certain things, right? So this is the framework that we have learned in the last maybe 3.5 years. This is the one thing that I would say has really transformed the way we think about it, which is this team framework. And I'm going to quickly go through, and in the Q&A we can talk more about it. But think about it as a target, engage, activate, and measure team, which means sales and marketing have the same target list of accounts to go after. No two different list, not leads, same target list of accounts to go after. You're engaging, that means marketing and sales are working on the same one, and you're engaging all the different things that you're doing from a marketing perspective. You're still doing that, but only to those set target accounts. We'll go through an example for that. And then activate. This is by far the most important step. Because we're in the marketing automation world, we know how to activate sales through alerts, but now activating them on the accounts is super important. Have you ever thought the title of a sales rep is what? Ali, what's your title?
Senior account executive.
Account executive. She doesn't care about leads. Her title says that she cares about accounts. So when marketing gives leads to sales, they don't look at it. But if she knows, hey, this is my 20 accounts that I'm focused on in Chicago, for example, and if you send a lead from that account, guess what? Ali's going to care about it. That's why account is so important to think about and using that on a day-to-day basis. And I think the measurement is engagement. And we're going to look at 2 or 3 different examples where how companies are measuring success, but I would love for you guys to think about, are you measuring the right things? Because when you measure leads and different things, it's not going to give you the same output. You can't have the same conversation about account-based marketing with them. So things that we have stopped measuring in our own organization. We have stopped measuring leads, we have stopped measuring conversion from leads, and we have stopped measuring website traffic. What will happen if you stop doing that? You're going to say, I have no idea what marketing does. But then what we have started to measure is engagement. Engagement meaning people spending time on your website from the accounts that you actually care about. Not the entire traffic, but the time that those accounts that your sales teams care about, they are spending on your website. Very specific. We're measuring velocity. Deals that are moving faster because you're able to focus on only those deals, not every single one. And then finally, the deal size. And that happens all the time. If you're focused on the right accounts, we're seeing that the deal sizes are going up for almost all of our customers on that. So this is the scorecard that I was talking about throughout, that sales and marketing meets every single week and walks through. Think about it. There's no lead mentioned anywhere. We only have tiers. Any of you do tiering for your accounts? I think that changed. That was a game changer for me when I started to do it. Like for the first 10 years, I didn't understand marketing. I felt like when we started tiering, it really makes sense because we can do the same amount of marketing initiatives for the companies that have high value. Like let's say there's $1 million deal and there is another that is a $50,000 deal. And if they all are, if your marketing is going to be the same for both, then we're missing the point completely, right? So $1 million deal is going to have much different activities. Maybe there's a field marketing event. Maybe there's a bigger direct mail campaign. Maybe there's an executive outreach campaign that you have to add in. Maybe there's a very specific webinar that we need to do where only 10 people can attend, but you are doing specifically for them in that industry. Very different than for a $50,000 deal where you can say, you know what, here's how you can use it because that's a low price point. Go ahead.
How did you determine what constituted an account that was engaged? Is it just one person on the account that had to interact with anything? Is it within a certain time frame?
That's a great question. So what define engagement, right? How do we define? Because it's it could be almost a fluffy word, right? Because engagement is going around by everybody. Engagement to us is one, knowing which account is, let's say, company X. And if we can find out what the engagement, meaning how much time that particular company is spending with us, that could be they have come to our website like once a month or something like that. And they're only one person in that company. And that's like the bare minimum. That's the baseline for us. As we activate the marketing campaign, we start doing the engagement with them, which means we're doing some advertising for them, direct mail for them, email campaigns, whatever else we're doing with those. Because very specific, we're watching that. And if that engagement goes up, meaning there are more than one person now from that account is coming to our website. So all of a sudden, the number of people in that account are engaged. And two, if they are spending more, that is, there's a surge in the amount of time they're spending on the product and pricing pages. Not every page, but product and pricing pages. Now we know that that account is not only the best fit account that we want to go after, but they have intent and engagement towards buying. So those signals are super important. And now when you give that information to your sales team, like, oh, this account you care about, you only had one person, now there are 4 people, and on top of that, the engagement is surged, your sales team is going to go all over it. So that's how we define engagement.
Quick question. So what's the big difference from what was happening in 2005 and what was happening in 2015? That slide that you showed, if people are going offline with the content anyways.
Offline the content?
Yeah, because like you're saying, like if 10 people download a PDF of pricing, but you don't know if they saw everything or they just send it to the trash, how do you measure that engagement and that price?
No, I mean, I think people are not necessarily going offline. I think people are not filling the forms anymore, right? So, like, I don't know how many of you love filling forms? Like, very few of us, right? So, and I don't even know, like, I put in like 404-4444 phone number. Somebody gets the phone calls all the time because of me. And so I was like, this is what's been happening. So I think we're all spending more time online, but we're spending less time downloading and waiting for somebody to do it. So for example, if your sales team is waiting for the CEO or a CFO or a main decision maker to download something, I think that's history. That's not happening anymore. What they're typically saying is that, hey, this is interesting, and they would probably go and check the website out. That's the signal, that's the engagement, that all of a sudden I see the champion in that company, but also the executives in that company are spending time without downloading anything. If you can get that signal, that's super important. I think that is the signal that was missing in the last 10 years.
It's just to keep them on the web, not getting them to download anything.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So that's sort of a two-part question. For your open or created opportunities, how are you looking at net new versus like an enterprise sale where you're going deeper into different either
Business units
divisions or business units? And the other thing is, how did you get alignment on what those definitions fall all
Yeah.
these things across the sales executive team.
Yeah.
Because I know that that's always a conflict where engaged for one person, especially a new person on the team.
Yeah.
Like, I would think create success, like, is there, did you provide this with an additional, like, appendix of what define each one of these items?
For especially tiering.
Well, for like engaged, net
Yeah.
open, is that net new, or is that every, like, net new within the enterprise? Because to pull those numbers would be very,
Very hard.
so that's why I'm like, how did you share that to say what these actually mean and get everybody in line? And then if you are doing those enterprise type of deals where you're going deeper into the organization and hitting multiple business units or multiple brands, like if you were L'Oreal, like how
Yeah.
would you identify all 20-something brands that
Love that question. Love that question. So first question is like, how do we do this? How do we get alignment and agreement to even do this? It was extremely hard. I'll tell you, we failed at least maybe 5 times before we got to this place. We failed a number of times defining what tiers meant for us. But one thing that we did that I think worked for us, and we try to advocate about this to everybody, that we try to get them to come up with a scorecard. And if this may not be the scorecard for you. You may have to define a different scorecard for your own organization. That's fine. This absolutely worked for us. We failed on the fact that the first one we failed on was we asked sales like, hey, which accounts do you want to go after? We failed right away because they said, you know what, we want to go after, like the biggest logos in the world, and they're not even best fit. So we failed there. Second, marketing came up with their own accounts. We failed again because marketing was coming very specifically based on what they thought. And I think both of those scenarios we failed. The third one, where we actually went to our customer success team and looked at our best customers and saying, why are these customers winning? And who is the right kind of customer? Who are the right people in those companies who are championing our product? That changed the equation. So having this customer success team part of that decision-making process of tiering absolutely helped. And they're the last people we typically reach out to, even though they're actually making the business grow. So the go-to-market team, in my opinion, is not sales. And it's not only marketing, it is actually sales, marketing, and customer success. And the whole thing is built around customer success team sitting in that room telling us, you know what, you can't sell the tier 1 companies at this price point because there is so much maintenance around it and we have to do so many things, so you have to change the pricing, you have to add services. So then it allows us to spend more money on tiering. If they wouldn't tell us that, we wouldn't have been able to do it. So that's where we kind of started off with. And the second question is, how do we go after certain business units within an organization? I think from our perspective for Terminus, we're able to target very specific to a specific business unit. I think that's something we can talk about later on. But that targeting has changed tremendously. I think 10 years ago, that wasn't possible. That just wasn't. The most you could do is email and find email or buy email and stuff. Right now with all the security, I'm glad we're not buying emails, right? But advertising is one of the ways where we can proactively get in front of people. That is something that's acceptable. But we can dive in later on for sure. It is one of the tougher problems for people. Cool. I love this. This is awesome.
So is advertising your primary channel? Once you've identified your list of accounts, is that how you're getting those people into your database?
So we have something in each one of these categories. So we help with targeting. So we have partnership with Bombara and data partners that allows us to help target better. Engagement is by far the area where we totally dominate because that's where we started off with. From acceleration perspective, we figure out what are the right spike insights we need to give to the sales team, because we figured out if we don't get the sales team bought into it, this is not going to work. This is going to fail. And then obviously from a measurement perspective, we acquired a company called BrightFunnel last year. So all of a sudden, and the reason we acquired BrightFunnel was because nobody was doing ABM analytics. If you think about it, if we do everything right and we measure it the same old way, we would never be able to move forward. So we ended up saying, okay, what do? We need to buy something that have a really good foundation of analytics, but then we override it with ABM focused analytics. So this scorecard that you're seeing, you can now pull out of Terminus and actually see what's happening with it. And it will pull data, engagement data, not just from advertising, but engagement data from your Marketo, Salesforce, all the differences that give us total overall health of that particular account, almost a 360 view across the board of what's happening with it. So that's something that we've started to do. Cool. Well, I should have started with that. That's awesome. All right. 5. We're halfway through, but I'll go through it super fast. ABM is more than demand gen. How many of you agree, disagree with that?
Has to be.
Yeah, it has to be, right? Like it can be. So to your earlier point, I think somebody asked about where does it fit? I believe the greatest opportunity, if you are trying to do ABM and find success, I think the greatest opportunity is actually here in pipeline velocity and acceleration. Anybody have idea why? That's where your sales team is fully committed. They've raised their hand and said, we're committing, these deals are going to close. You already know what your length of your sales cycle typically is when something hits pipeline, like let's say 90 days or 120 days, whatever it is. You already know what the deal size is. And you already have CEO, CFO, everybody looking at it. You have the greatest attention from your organization at that point. So imagine if the marketer, if you can give air cover and do anything to drive those accounts to completion, that's what pipeline velocity really jumps in, you're going to be a hero in your organization because that's where money is stuck. What we get pushed into demand gen because everybody wants us to drive leads, but in reality, that's where you can drive the most revenue. Our most successful customers, their first pilot project, to get success and get buy-in from everybody to have a different defined scorecard and all that stuff is showing that, let us help us drive more pipeline and revenue. That's the number one thing that I feel like most organizations are trying to do, and that's where they see success. This is really interesting because if you think about their ads and the messaging, what they did is they're not looking at, again, web traffic overall. They're looking at traffic from the target accounts. It really doesn't matter if more people showed up. Like, I remember when we did press releases and the spike goes up on Google Analytics and the CEO and the board is like super happy, like, wow, marketing is doing a great job. But it doesn't drive revenue. And now when you can do very specific targeted things, you can actually create a ton of value. Okay? Here's another one, and I wanted to have something where I had Marketo in it, right? So here's a company, HighSpot. Anybody familiar with HighSpot? Right? So they created a full flow around it with Marketo, Salesforce, the whole tiering of accounts where they're running Terminus ads, they're using their own sales enablement, where they have a whole process mapped out to figure out how do we go after target accounts based on tiering. You can see it was a very big part of their whole process. They're incredible, and they're able to see that they have more accounts added, and they have a whole process where your sales team, if it's accepted, we run another set of Terminus ads or any different ads or campaigns, and if they are not accepted, then they will run another set of campaigns, like just a different messaging because they're not accepted. So they created a full-blown campaign to drive success, and the ABM is not one tool. And hopefully that's like super, super, super clear to everybody as you're doing. It's not marketing automation, it's not email, it's none of that because all of them are tech tools to do all you want, but ABM is a strategy. As a co-founder of Terminus, I would say if you're using only Terminus, then you're not doing ABM. You probably are doing a very targeted advertising and you're getting a few things, but you're not doing ABM because it has to work with your sales team, whatever tools they're using. It may be Salesloft or Outreach or whatever. It has to work with the marketing programs using Marketo or whatever it might be. It has to work with any other software else that you're trying to do. It's a full-on strategy that we look forward to having everything connected together. So that was really cool because they were able to score A, B, and C and have their ADRs work through it. And the results were just, again, like very, very targeted. Everybody's looking at, can we get a lift and more engagement and penetration in my target accounts? Does it make sense? Cool. All right, so we walked through this, but this is one of my favorite charts. When I thought about what we do in marketing and sales, I feel like all we're trying to really do is between low touch and high touch and high tech and low tech. So you think about direct mail, sales call, VIP, eat dinners and things. They kind of low tech, low touch. If you go far and say, you know what, sponsoring large events, content marketing, email nurturing, they get into more high-tech activities. You can think about all the other industry events, small events, customer demos, and all the way to high-tech, high-touch, where you're really focused on personalized video, personalized advertising, personalized webinars, whatever you can do to personalize it. I think this is the high-tech, high-touch is where the magic is. That's where most people are finding success, is when they have a combination of their high-tech activities, be a combination of Signature, be a combination of email and whatnot, but they also have a high touch with it. That drives the greatest results. Here's another example of WP Engine, where the sales and marketing work together, but here's the beauty they did. They did one-to-one ads. How many of you are running one-to-one ad? One ad per company, one ad per persona, one ad per segment, and one ad per opportunity stage. Because that meant $1 million to them. One-to-one. And I think that's where it's going. It's like, can we create that personalized one-to-one experience? So when they click on that ad, the page they go through, they use Uberflip, so they're able to see a place where now people are not downloading anything. They're actually on a place where they have a full-on experience of, because it's very specific to them. It is their name, their company's name, all that information. They have a tremendous amount of success with that. And this is our stack. Like, so I wanted to just openly share what tools we use today, because I think everybody needs to look at their stack. So when we think about our own stack, not super easy to go to our CFO and tell, like, hey, you know what? We need to be better at targeting. So here are the tools we're going to use. We need to be better at engagement. Instead of just saying we want this tool or that tool, we're able to map it to the strategy that we as an organization have agreed upon. I highly encourage to build a tech stack based on business rules, and that really helped us get a ton of budget approved. All right. This is another example, very simple, which is one-to-one company. They had very clear banner ad. They took them to a page where there's all this content, and then Morgan over here, she's our SDR, she just turned an AE. In 1 year, how many one-to-one videos she has done? Just guess a number. One-to-one videos to do ABM.
400?
Go higher. In 1 year.
1,000.
Go higher. 3,000 videos. And her open rates on email are 80%. Because her emails are very targeted to that person, with very specific, with their name on it, that takes them to, and then while she's doing that, there are ads, there are air campaigns going on. So your sales and marketing is working together. And regardless of where they come from, they go to this one page where it's all about them. So the amount of time that particular company spends on the website is through the roof. And I think that's where we need to go to as marketing, is how can we get our target accounts to spend a tremendous amount of time with us? Because that's game changer. That's like you getting an advance for whatever product or services you're selling, because you are ahead of your competitors because of that. All right, so this one is pretty simple. I feel like it is sprints. If you're doing ABM or you're planning to do ABM, and if you want to do a campaign across the board, I would say don't start big campaign. Don't think about like a big result. Don't go for a 12-month program. Go for like a 3-month or 2-month, or I would say even 1-month pilot. Hey, let me just try and see if you can create engagement in target accounts. Or let me just try and see if you can create penetration in your pipeline accounts. Like really, really small wins going through it. And then 10, this is again, like the only person remaining from my family is my wife. So this is where I bring her, is like, how do you accept, create customer heroism? Wow, like the graphics are off the chart. But that's my customer, not future, current customer. I don't want to be fired. And some of you have seen this slide that have seen me present before. And I feel like, I went through this with her 2 years ago at Christmas. And I said, hey, what do I do to have the most impact in our relationship? And I think I was very bold that day. So I went through this. And we started with this idea of like, okay, of things that you want that are status quo, you just want me to do, it's good. Things that are out of love, where you really, really care. And she started with like basic things like just clean cars. Don't forget to pick up the kids from the school. That just happened once. Don't do that again. Those kind of things. And then like don't ask her like what she wants for Christmas or birthday. Like after 12 years, you're expected to know. So that was a negative thing. It was very low impact on our relationship, if not negative. And then she works and I work. So this is where it's more about like how I can become like mom and dad over the weekends, which I absolutely fail. all the time. But there are things that, this is where it's becoming interesting because she hates, like my job is to do dishes, so she hates when it's piled up all the way. Until the end of the day, I would just keep looking at it, and she was like getting upset about it. So she's like, if you can just clean up throughout the day, that'd be awesome, kind of stuff. But what really mattered to her was this, like flowers on a random Wednesday. So for whatever reason, for the last 12 years in our marriage, I've done that almost all the time, where whenever there are no flowers, I'll just go get it. Or now, as I'm traveling more this year, I'll just write a note for her, and then I'll give it to Krish. And then Krish would write his thing, and then give it to her every night I'm gone. So if I'm gone for one night, it's one. If I'm gone for 4 nights, it's 4. And to her, that matters more. And the reason I bring that up is because whatever we do as marketers, it has to matter. And if it doesn't matter, then we'd rather not do it. Because that's what the customer, your future customer is going to remember, like how much did you care about them. So my big thought there around customer heroism, going from wife heroism, is that what if all the things that you're doing, right, email nurturing, blog posts, honest recommendations, fine, you can just create this graph. It might help your marriage or relationship. It might also help marketing, just to connect it back to it. You might be doing all these things, right? What I would really encourage you guys to think about is this. That what if when you plot all those things and you stop everything that has low impact and status quo? Like what will happen if you don't send your weekly newsletter? Except your CEO, probably nobody would care. It'd be hard to swallow that pill, but what will happen if you didn't write 3 blogs a week and just wrote 1? What will happen if you do whatever, like just stop doing the things that you don't think is creating impact for your customers? And what if you put all of your time, your energy, your money, your resources on these things, the things that you're creating out of love, because you care for your customers, because you know that will have a 10x impact on the customer value, all those things, what will happen when you stop all these things and have all the time to focus on that? I think wherever that is, maybe that's an extreme, but somewhere in between is where ABM is. It's like really focusing on things that absolutely matters. Otherwise, we're just using automation too much. But that's it. If you get a chance, check out Flip My Phone podcast. If you have a story, that's my cell phone number. Don't call me. I won't pick up. But if you text me, I will absolutely respond.